Hi everyone, and welcome to this workshop series on branding. My name is Chris Converse, and what we're going to be doing today is taking a look at how we can explore typography around us using apps and services inside of Creative Cloud. We're going to start with Adobe Capture, which will allow us to capture fonts that we see around us. If you see a font that looks interesting on a menu in a poster, you can use your mobile device to capture that font and have Creative Cloud identify not only that font, but fonts that are very similar to it that you can activate for your projects. We'll also take a look at how you can do something very similar directly inside of Photoshop, picking out type that's inside of images or photos. Then we're going to move over to the Adobe Fonts website, where you'll find some amazing search filters that will allow you to find fonts based on certain characteristics of the font. And we'll even be able to use images as search criteria. On the Adobe Fonts website, you'll also find font packs. This is where typography experts have already curated a bunch of different fonts and paired them together so that you can activate the entire set and get a jumpstart on your project. And then finally, we're going to be taking a look at how we can take fonts that we have activated inside of Creative Cloud and use them in any application on any device, not just applications made by Adobe. So this will give you a chance to be able to go in and use those fonts and keep some type consistency no matter what application you're using. So if all of that sounds interesting, sit back and let me demonstrate these workflows for you. Or if you'd like to follow along, you can download the project files where you'll find some PowerPoint and Keynote files in addition to some images that you can use in Capture and Photoshop. Or of course, if you have some of your own photographs with typography inside, you can use those as well. And so with that, let's get started exploring typography. Hi everyone, and welcome to this workshop series on branding. My name is Chris Converse, and what we're going to be doing today is taking a look at how we can explore typography around us using apps and services inside of Creative Cloud. We're going to start with Adobe Capture, which will allow us to capture fonts that we see around us. If you see a font that looks interesting on a menu in a poster, you can use your mobile device to capture that font and have Creative Cloud identify not only that font, but fonts that are very similar to it that you can activate for your projects. We'll also take a look at how you can do something very similar directly inside of Photoshop, picking out type that's inside of images or photos. Then we're going to move over to the Adobe Fonts website, where you'll find some amazing search filters that will allow you to find fonts based on certain characteristics of the font. And we'll even be able to use images as search criteria. On the Adobe Fonts website, you'll also find font packs. This is where typography experts have already curated a bunch of different fonts and paired them together so that you can activate the entire set and get a jumpstart on your project. And then finally, we're going to be taking a look at how we can take fonts that we have activated inside of Creative Cloud and use them in any application on any device, not just applications made by Adobe. So this will give you a chance to be able to go in and use those fonts and keep some type consistency no matter what application you're using. So if all of that sounds interesting, sit back and let me demonstrate these workflows for you. Or if you'd like to follow along, you can download the project files where you'll find some PowerPoint and Keynote files in addition to some images that you can use in Capture and Photoshop. Or of course, if you have some of your own photographs with typography inside, you can use those as well. And so with that, let's get started exploring typography. To begin exploring fonts, we're going to start with Adobe Capture. So here on my home screen, I have a bunch of Adobe apps. Capture is this one here with the icon CA. I'm going to come in here and tap on this. Now when it loads, Capture goes into its default all assets state. And across the top, we have a bunch of different modes. If I tap on materials, type, shapes, this puts Capture into modes where when you either load an image or access the camera, it will create different types of assets for you. I also want to point out that I'm in a library called Adobe Max right now. So this is actually showing me all of the shapes or type or materials I have in this particular library, which is none at the moment. So I'll come up here and put this into type mode. In the bottom center, we have two ways we can get content into Capture to be evaluated. We can either load an image or tap on the camera icon. So find a book or magazine or poster near you that's got some type on it. Let's tap on the camera. So that'll activate the camera right inside of Capture. And now you can move around and find some type. Put the type into the highlighted area. So I want to get this headline here. And then come down here and tap on the shutter. Once the picture's taken, Capture will evaluate this and then go into its OCR mode, its optical character recognition, and try to find any fonts within the picture. And notice it finds things on my keyboard. It finds all the paragraph type and the heading. So let's come up here and tap on the Going Professional heading, or tap on whatever type you like in your image. Tap on the check mark. That will then send all of this data up to Creative Cloud, and then Creative Cloud will try to match that font and find additional fonts on Adobe Fonts that will match this. So I can scroll through here. At the top is the first or best guess, but you can continue to scroll through here and find any other font you want to explore. So I'll come down here and just click on this one, Carta Marina. If you want to make any changes, you can come up here and hit Edit. On the Edit screen, you can do a couple of things here. You can change the size. You can change the weight of the font. And what's worth noting is I can change the weight of the font without actually activating this font. So all of the different variations are available in real time, so I can come in here and sort of play with the different settings. I can change the leading, I can change the tracking, and I can even do things like make this all cap or super or subscript, and do strike throughs and underlines. So once I have the font looking the way I like, I can come up here and hit Save. And from this point, I can tap on the name and give this a new name, tap Done, and then I can come down here and pick a library I'd like to save this to. So I'm going to hit the upper left-hand arrow here. I want to back out of this. I want to go back to the main screen, exit out of the camera, and from the main type screen, let's come down and click on the image icon. Now you can load an image from your camera roll or from anywhere that your mobile device can access photos. So I'm going to come in here and tap on Creative Cloud. The project files, I saved one of my project files into my Creative Cloud files. So I'll come into my branding workshops. From here, I'll load the photo of that hand-drawn lettering. I'll tap Open. Now Capture will evaluate this. And what I can do here is I can tap on the word Makes, because that's what Capture thinks I was interested in. And then I can drag the handles around to put the words ice cream inside of the highlighted area, then tap on the check mark. So that portion of the image will be sent up to Creative Cloud, and then I'll get a list of results based on that. So I can scroll through here and look at all of these. If I want to change the text to make it a little bit more representational of the actual image, I can come up here and type in ice cream. Once that's in, I'll tap Done, and that'll be the new preview text that I see as I scroll through here. So once I find one of these, I'll pick number 5 rough. I'll tap on that, click Save, and this one I will save to my Altura Athletics library. So I'll tap on the library, change this to Altura Athletics, then I'll hit Save. That's going to save this information into my Creative Cloud library. So I'll exit out of my camera, and now I'm looking at my Altura Athletics library. And you can see the font that I just added, and you'll also see some fonts from earlier when I found Termina and Ethnocentric that were used in the mood boards. So using Adobe Capture allows me to find fonts, whether they're in images that I'm loading in from my camera roll or Creative Cloud files, or fonts that are around me in books, magazines, posters, and I can just capture those, send them to Creative Cloud, find the font that I want, and then save them into my library. So next, we're going to take a look at how you can actually do something similar directly inside of Photoshop. Another way that you can detect fonts inside of an image is to do it directly inside of Photoshop. So from the project files, I'll open up this image here that I took of this hand lettering that I saw in a coffee shop. Now inside of Photoshop with this layer selected in the Layers panel, let's come up and select the Marquee Selection tool, and then I'll simply click and drag to select all of the letters inside of the word ice cream. Next, come up here to the Type menu, come down and choose Match Font. So just like inside of Capture, Photoshop's going to send all of this data up to Creative Cloud. Creative Cloud is going to evaluate all of these letter forms and try to find fonts on Adobe Fonts that will match this. Now in my results, I'll see all of these little icons here next to all of the detected fonts, and these allow me to activate this font immediately for use on this machine. So this is a little bit different than Capture, where Capture will save all of the information about the font and put it into a CC library. So in looking through this list, I want to activate this one here, Spumante Bold. So I'll come over here and click on the cloud icon right next to it. So you'll see that little dialog box that popped up that says that that's being activated. Now in the top, I can see that this font is now showing up as being activated. If you happen to try to capture a font that you already have activated, you can just simply see that in the list here in Photoshop. So I'll come down here and click OK. So now I have that font showing up inside of here. I'm going to click T from my type tool. I'm going to click and drag. We'll create a new type layer. I'll do select all and just format this a little bit. In the left-hand side, you'll see that Spumante has been picked for me automatically. I'll set this to about 80 points just so we can see it on the screen. I'll spell ice cream correctly. Maybe I'll tighten up the tracking a little bit, make this a little bit larger. And as you can see, I can start working with this font immediately. And now to keep track of all of your fonts, you can come up here to the Creative Cloud app. In the upper right corner or on the left panel, you can go into Manage Fonts. And inside of here, you can see a list of all of the fonts that are activated. And I can see that the one that I just activated here is showing up at the top. So I'll close this. Let's go back to the project files. I'll open up the concert banner JPEG. And inside of here, I'll do the same thing. Now this image is going to be a little bit more difficult because we do have some sun highlights here and a lot of shadows. So I'll come in here and select the name of the band. Let's come up here and go to Type, Match Font. That's going to be sent up to Creative Cloud, and we're going to get a list of all of the possible matches showing up down here as well. So right here inside of Photoshop, we can detect fonts and use the same technologies that we saw inside of Adobe Capture to match and activate fonts across our entire system. Now, so far, we've looked at a couple really interesting ways that you can search for fonts, whether it be through Capture using your camera or an image, or searching directly through Photoshop. And we've also looked at managing your fonts with the Creative Cloud application. But you can do a lot of things directly on the Adobe Fonts website. So from your adobe.com site, you can come up here to your apps icon, come down to fonts, or just go directly to fonts.adobe.com. And you can start to do some really sophisticated searching right here on the website. So over here in the upper left, we have Browse Fonts. We have a couple of different categories here. So let's start here. So inside of Browse Fonts, we can come in here and just do a straight search. So if I wanted to search for Caslon, for example, I happen to know that might be the name of the font I'm looking for. I can type that in and get a live view here. So I'll click on King's Caslon. That'll bring me to the profile page for this typeface. And then I can scroll through here and see all of the fonts available for this face. Now I'll come back up here and click on Browse Fonts again. Next on the left-hand side, we have the ability to add filters. You can choose from different languages and writing systems. You can toggle this category open and then browse the drop-down menu. Next, we have all of the different tags. So these are sort of stylistic tags. I can come in here and click on some of these. So these are all of the calligraphic styles, geometric, Art Deco. There's just tons of different settings here. And what's interesting about these is they don't take into account whether a font is sans serif or serif or handwritten, but rather the overall sort of tone and feel of the font. So this gives you a really great way to sort of group together different types of fonts. I'll deactivate this tag and close these up. Next, we have the overall classification of the font, how they're structured. So you can click between all of these different properties, sans serif, serif, slab. And as I select these, you'll notice that this list changes in real time. Go over to Script. You can even come up here and change the sample text and all of the properties, even as all of these classifications are injected. So I'll come up here and change the sample text to Altera Athletics, and then I'll continue going through the classifications. And then finally, we can come down here and look at some additional properties. A lot of fonts have a lot of different weights. There's also something called a variable weight font, where you can actually set the width from really thin to really thick and change it to any value in between. There's tons of different types of fonts available here. And we can go through default style figures, standards of caps only, and all of these are toggles. So you can turn them on and off, and they are additive. So you can add weight to standard of caps and style figures, for example, and just combine them all together. So this gives you a lot of ways that you can search for fonts based on all of these different criteria. And we can also load an image just like we did with Photoshop. So you'll notice up here in the search bar, I've got this little camera. I'm going to click on the camera icon. Let's go into our project files. I'm going to load the same hand-drawn coffee shop photo. Click Open. This is going to take that image and load it up to Creative Cloud. Creative Cloud's going to evaluate this using the same technologies we saw inside of Photoshop and Capture. And now on this screen here, I'll scroll down a little bit. I'll select the selection. It thought I wanted to pick this out, but really we want to pick out this. So I'll change my selection, drag these around, click Next Step. Here on the website, it's going to tell me that it couldn't detect any of the letters. It's not really sure what characters it's looking for. So we're going to tell it. So I'll type in the word ice cream, then click Next. And now Creative Cloud can combine the characters I told it were in the font with the shapes and it's going to combine those two together and then give me a new list of results. And as I scroll through here, you'll see that we can see the image at the top, just like we saw in Capture. And then I can scroll through here and find a font that matches most closely to the image I was originally inspired by. Now, the other thing you'll notice here is there's an Activate Font toggle here. When I'm inside of the website, any of the fonts that I already have activated are going to show inside of this toggle here. And not only can you search for fonts on Adobe Fonts, but you can also manage the fonts on your system. So I'll come up here and click on My Adobe Fonts, and here I'll see a list of all of my activated fonts, just like I saw in the Creative Cloud desktop app. I can scroll through here and see all of the items that I have activated. I can even come up here and see fonts that I have previously used. So if I was using a font and I'm not using it anymore, I can get a list of what I've used in the past, kind of like my own font history. And then there's a Web Projects group. These are all of the fonts that I've activated for use on web projects. And we'll talk more about web fonts in the next workshop, where we'll talk about styling and applying type to your projects. And so now that we've taken a look at a bunch of ways that we can search for fonts using images, search criteria, all of the things that we've been talking about, next we'll take a look at font packs, where we have type experts who have spent a lot of time putting fonts together and pairing them so that we can activate an entire group for our creative projects. A great feature on the Adobe Fonts website is font packs. Now from the main screen, you can scroll down and see font packs right here in the center. You can also see it in the navigation up here on the top left. Now what font packs are is basically a group of fonts curated together by typography experts to help you sort of match the style and feel of your project. It's almost like miniature mood boards for typography. So let's come down here and click on Explore Font Packs. And as you scroll through here, you'll see a bunch of different font styles that are being combined together to create all of these different projects. So you'll want to start by picking a font pack that sort of feels like the branding and style, or maybe the mood board of your overall project. And once you find a font pack that you like, you can click on View Font Pack. And in here, you'll get information about the different people who picked these fonts and what some of their reasoning was. And if you continue down even further, you can see all of the fonts listed here that make up that particular group. Now you'll also notice that we'll see the main font family, and then we'll have the ability to go into the entire family. So for Balloon URW, I can come in here and click on View Entire Family, and I can see all of the fonts that comprise this particular font family. Over here on the right, I can activate the font. I can change the size, do all of the other adjustments that we did in the last video where we talked about all of our searching criteria. And then in the upper left corner, I'll click on my back button in the browser, and then I can continue to scroll through and look at the remaining fonts in this group. Down at the bottom, I have an Activate All Fonts. So I can turn this on if everything in that font family is going to work for my project. Now down here at the bottom, I can activate all the fonts at once, or I can go back through the list and pick the specific fonts that I like based on how they work together and how they fit with my project. So now that we've explored all of these amazing ways to find and activate fonts, next we'll take a look at how we can use Adobe Fonts from Creative Cloud in non-Adobe applications across multiple devices. One of my favorite aspects of working with fonts in Creative Cloud is the fact that you can manage fonts on multiple devices and use the fonts in any application. So here I have my Creative Cloud desktop app running. On the left-hand side, I'm going to come down to Manage Fonts, or you can click on this fonts icon in the top right here. So now here I can see all of the fonts that I have active. If I come down here, I'm going to be using this one down here, Ethnocentric Light Italic. I can click on this to see a preview here. This is the main font that we're going to be using for the logo. After all of our font explorations, we're going to be settling on this and Termina. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up that PowerPoint file in the project files, and we're going to apply this font to our slide. So I'll start by coming down here and selecting my title text block, select the text, come up here to my font menu. I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to scroll through and look for Ethnocentric. Now I've already applied it so I can see it in the recent fonts. But if I come down here and scroll through my entire font list, you can see the font showing up in here as well. I'll select Light Italic, and now my Adobe font is being applied directly to my slide. And now to demonstrate a similar workflow on a completely different platform, I'll switch over to my phone. I'm back on my Adobe app screen here. I'll come up here and tap on Creative Cloud in the upper left. Now from this screen here, I can manage all of my Creative Cloud assets, just like I did on the desktop earlier. Down across the bottom, I have a bunch of different channels down here. I've got my Learn channel where I can watch additional tutorials. I got the Your Work section where you can see my libraries, my photos, everything I've been working on. And down here, we also have our fonts. So I'm going to tap on fonts. Now across the top, I can see all of the fonts that I have installed on this particular device. If I tap on installed fonts, I can see that I only have one font activated. Let's go back to Browse Adobe Fonts. In the top center, I'm going to click on the magnifying glass. This will invoke a search. I'll enter the first couple of characters of ethnocentric, tap search, and then I can see a live search result here. I'll tap on View Family, and now I can see a profile of this font. I can scroll through here. I can tap on the individual fonts down here to see a preview at the top. I'm looking for light italic. I can see that right down here. And then I'm going to come over here and click on the plus sign. I'll tap Install, and when it's ready, I'll see a green check. So with that in place, I'm going to simply switch out of this application. I'm going to go over to Keynote. I'm going to tap on my presentation to open it up. First, I'll zoom up on my slide here to get this into full screen view. Then I'll tap on the headline, tap on the paintbrush in the top center, come down here under Font, tap on the font. Here you'll see ethnocentric because I did use that, so it's in my recent list. But if I scroll down, you'll also see this showing up in my full list of fonts. Tap on ethnocentric, light italic, and then close out of the font list. And now I've applied the same Adobe font to my presentation on my phone. So now we've completed this workshop by taking a look at various ways that we can explore and find typography using Creative Cloud. From being inspired by what we see around us, to identifying fonts and typefaces inside of photographs, to searching for fonts and font packs on the Adobe Fonts website, and being able to activate those for use in any application on any device. So at this point, we're ready to move on to the next workshop, where we'll take a look at how we can apply and style typography for any creative project.